everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Viking Chats podcast. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Stella Nicol of Street. Stella?
Hi everybody.
Thanks for doing the long schlep down from the barren wastelands of the wintry north, as we just did before.
Yeah.
All the way down to Shoreditch to come and have a chat with us today. How you doing?
Yeah, really good, thank you. First day back after the new year, so...
I know, at what point did we think booking a podcast chat in like the first proper working day of the year was a great idea? I'm so glad you messaged me the other day and was like, everything's still good for
honestly.
Monday, 11 o'clock. Yeah, cool. There was obviously some point in December I was like, that's a great idea.
At the time there was logic to it, right? I thought it would be a great idea. It was efficient, I was already going to be down here, it would tie in beautifully. And then you think, first day back on a Monday, what?
Listen, when I'm trying to lock down people in a company that's as busy and fast growing as you guys are, I've got to latch on to what I can get. And I was trying to lock you in December and you were like, December's quite busy for us. I'm a little bit busy right now.
It is, yeah.
So look, for those who don't know you, let's talk a little bit first about obviously early stage career. You and I having a bit of a chat before we switched the cameras on. So seemingly like a lot of good PropTech companies at the moment, you started off as an agent.
Yeah, I did. I mean, as all good agents do, I came out of the womb planning on being
of course,
an estate agent.
Planned career path, studied hard, got all that knowledge and degrees and certificates, and I practically had a doctorate in estate agency before I started.
It was a very meticulous and strategic plan, obviously.
Oh, free car. For Anne, that was her one. She was like, I get a car. Done.
Brilliant. I started out, I went to university, traditional path first off. I did psychology and history there.
Of course you did.
Why not?
Perfect. The perfect tools for real estate. What else would you study to be a professional?
Exactly that. But no, to be fair, my original plan was to be a child psychologist. So that was the psychology part.
You made the logical hop over to real estate.
Yeah, and halfway through, the government changed it where in order to be a child psychologist, you had to finish your BA or BSc, and then you had to go and train to be a teacher first. And
interesting.
I was like, that was not part of the gig.
No, that's not what I signed up for.
To be a teacher, not a fan.
No. That's really interesting. And is that still the case, or?
Not sure. I thought about it the other day actually, but I don't know. Is the honest answer. But at the time, I remember thinking, and you're young as well, and you think, I don't really want to go into education.
Teaching is definitely a calling, and teaching children, and particularly when you're young.
It's not my calling. Yes.
I'm a parent of two. I'm not sure it'd be mine either. So. But yeah, no, I can imagine that kind of like three. So, but did you see out the degree?
Yeah, I thought, I'm a student now. I'm enjoying university life. Yeah, why would I not?
I'm not giving this up.
Why would I not? And at the time, my mum had got remarried, and she moved out to France with my stepdad and younger brother and sister. So I also didn't have that typical kind of home to go back to at the end of university. So
how much younger are your brother and sister? Because obviously you were uni, 18, 19.
Yeah, so there's only kind of 3 years between me and my brother, and he's the next one down. But he was still finishing education, so he needed to go with, and they got dragged.
I bet he loved that at like 16, being dragged to another country, probably to like a very rural bit of France.
Very rural. Rush hour is having a car in front of you at the roundabout is rush hour. And I
bet your mum was like, hey, don't need to worry about him partying out here. He's like going to get drunk on the vineyard grapes, and that's about it.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, to be fair, he's done incredible. He didn't thank them at the time, but he's done incredibly well from it. So obviously the French and the English, he finished his education, became fluent in French, and then worked his way up as an accountant, chartered accountant, and he's now in France.
Nice.
And he's now the CEO of Grant Thornton France. So
Jesus Christ.
he did okay.
He did all right.
He did all
Jesus
right.
Christ. That's all right. Okay. You know, what's your other sibling? A Formula One racing driver? Come on.
I know. So my younger sister equally got dragged out, and she hated it more than my brother. She came back to England. She lives in Reading now. We were talking about that briefly before. And she works for a company that sells weapons, essentially. So she always knows when war is due.
There's a big order coming in. Get the bunker ready, Stella.
So quite diverse anyway in background. But essentially, I'd gone to uni. They decided they were moving to France. And when I finished, I thought, well, I'm not going to now go and do a PGCE, which is typically what I would have had to do.
Yeah.
And I never wanted to be an estate agent. Obviously, that's not kind of the path, I know.
Get out!
Shock horror.
Get out!
But I did always have an affinity with, it was more the houses. So I would always, when I was like 10, 12, to like 13, 14, I'd get my mum to buy me Cheshire Life. And it wasn't to look at the parties and the fancy dresses. It was always to look at the kitchens and the bathrooms and the renovations and all the kind of property related stuff. And I remember mithering for a book when I was about 11. I've still got it now, actually. It was Britain's Greatest Houses. And it was always, I think I should, thinking about it, should have gone into architecture rather than anything else. But essentially that's what I ended up doing. Was just enjoying houses and
with architecture, you have to go back and study more. That's the problem.
There was an element of that as well, yeah. So I like the idea of being nosy. I think that was also the pull, and having a look.
I think it's a common theme, right? It's a very common thing you hear about a general interest in property. Like, I mean, you know, I've said before, I grew up. We would buy very rundown houses and live in them, and after 2 or 3 years, we'd pretty much finish doing them up, and my mum would be like, "Cool, so where's next?" Yeah. So we bounced a lot, but yeah, we would always kind of live on half building sites. Like I remember our house in Menorca, like we only bought it as a holiday home originally, but like it was the old bakery from the village, but like properly derelict. Like no windows, no doors, no running water. I had a well in the kitchen, and like for the first 4 years, the 3 or 4 years we holidayed out there, we did everything from the well. So you'd take a bucket from the well and you take it up to the loo, and you'd tip it into the sink. And in the summer, it would sometimes run out if it was really hot, and we'd have to have a truck pull up and fill the well back up. It was, but yeah, no, we moved around with that. And my dad, probably should have been an architect, but never had the maths or physics skills. He went into art, but he had a massive passion for architecture. So anywhere we go, he'd be like, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And he'd talk about the different styles the different classical styles of architecture. So yeah, again, like you said, I was brought up around that. And when it came to falling into agency, like a lot of us do, I think there is that draw. You don't necessarily understand what it is at the time, but it was like, oh yeah, property. I like property, and I like chatting to people, and that was it. And that was it. It was the only job that I applied for, and I thought, well, I need to have a roof over my head. I need to earn some money. What can I do? And I saw, obviously, it wasn't online in the same way for searching for jobs, and it was a job in the paper. Yeah. And I went into Chester, into the city centre office in Chester of Retrains, and came out with the job, and that was it. And it was a really straightforward kind of interview, and landed my role as junior negotiator, as you do. And so obviously worked your way up. So yeah. So how long roughly were you there for?
want to say probably about, I mean, it was a long time ago now, but about 8 years in total, I think.
Oh, wow. Actually, okay,
maybe
longer than I
seven,
thought.
8 years. And funnily enough, also in that office was James DePavey. And me and James had our first proper jobs together.
How funny.
And it's come full circle. I mean, I love that boy to bits. But yeah, we worked together, and then our lives took separate paths, and then now we end up obviously at the same events, and James is on street, and
it's funny.
yeah, we have a great time, you know.
But it's nice. I mean, you quite often hear these stories like now. I mean, with more of us being in the industry longer and longer. Yeah, I was going to say our beards are getting grayer, but that's a bit harsh. But yeah, no, we're definitely. But no, it is really nice, and I think what's really nice is you do hear these stories, and there's quite a lot of people who've been in the game quite a while, and whether it's people you see kind of bounce around the corporate scene, or you know, the well-established independents that we all know who've, you know, now been knocking around. I mean, Christ, Base is going to be 22 years in May.
See, it just goes, doesn't it? You don't even think about it.
Like, yeah, it's just when you look in the mirror you realise actually how long you've been doing this. But
yeah, time flies.
So did your 7-8 year stint at Reeds Rains, worked your way up to branch manager, area manager?
Yeah, branch manager in Chester. A couple of other offices I ended up doing as well, so into North Wales and Staffordshire, but predominantly stayed in that area. Yeah, it's obviously you get involved in sales on lettings, and a couple of years after I joined, Reeds Rains was bought out by LSL.
Yeah.
So obviously you end up watching that, and we had obviously the recession there. Northern Rock was right out opposite our office at the time. Obviously it's not there now.
The queues.
So yeah, we distinctly I have this visual recognition of just the queues outside the window, and you think, shit got real.
Because I remember, yeah, we were what, 4 years. We started Base in 2004, and yeah, obviously recession hit early 2008. It was like, but yeah, no, we weren't Northern Rock customers, but I it's one of those things you kind of remember and it sticks with you. I mean, if it had been across the road, I think I definitely would have. But I remember seeing it on the news and being like, ooh, it's getting serious.
Yeah, it was. It was a really kind of serious time. And I think it helps now, to be fair, in that obviously my time at Street, you've seen kind of, you know, peaks and troughs in the market, and we see it even though we're not part of it directly, because we obviously experience
and you see all the
every
data.
Nuance of of what an agent experiences.
You know what's happening in your platform. You know where the transaction levels are, and
exactly, and through COVID and all the things that they experience, and I think just having that context of being sat in an office and knowing how that feels, I think quite often can help with those conversations with agents, definitely.
Yeah, and I think, you know, again, the better you understand an agent's business, because I think that's the thing. I think, and this is why I think so many of the companies that do really well at the moment are ones that either have a team or leadership that is ex-agency, because it is such a weird business like model fundamentally. If you work on the traditional fee structure, and it is strange how, you know, we've kind of pigeonholed ourselves into this kind of slightly annoying category of I don't know, I suppose not a lot, but a decent chunk of the public kind of consider us a kind of necessary evil.
Yeah.
With letting agents and estate agents, and yeah, it's just a funny one, isn't it? We're such an essential part of everyone's lives, and yet we still struggle with the reputations that we've got. But at the same time, it is a really challenging business. The business model that most agents have built for themselves in this country, with the no sale, no fee, no upfront marketing costs, low fee structure and everything else. And like you said, and then you're at the mercy of the market, as we all know. You know, good agents obviously will leverage what's out there, but ultimately no agent can be like, right, people, you're buying these houses. Like, if the market goes flat, the market goes flat.
Nobody's immune to it. That's exactly how it works. And if you said now that you were starting an industry and this is how the industry would work, and though, you know, in terms of no sell, no fee, and these are the people who think you'd be absolutely berserk.
Yeah.
You know, you're off your rocker, and yet we do it, and it's absolutely ingrained into the industry.
Yeah, because you think really, I mean, there's really no other field, and it's we see it as just the way it works. But you think in any other arena, our fee structure is a bit ambulance chasing, isn't it? It is that no win, no fee kind of like, if you phrase it another way, and we've kind of pigeonholed ourselves. Like, you think, you know, we want to become a profession. There is a lot of talk about Roper, and it's got mixed support. I've got to be honest, I sit on the fence. I see.
Yep.
I don't think it'll fundamentally change much, but maybe it would do over a longer period of time. So I suppose maybe in that way there would be a greater benefit. But, you know, if you think, like you said, you think expecting quality solicitors to be like, cool, you're going to do all that work and bear all the costs that you do doing that work. And if it all works out, whether or not you've done a good job, but if it all works out, then you'll get paid, but not too much.
And the time that these things take, it's like you say, the length of time to see any significant change is going to be a while. None of this stuff happens overnight. And by that point in time, normally for any legislative changes, too many other things happen in between. There's too many industry swings. We get distracted. There's a change in government. Let's
stay clear of government. There aren't enough hours in the day to navigate that one. So look, just quickly back to you, Jenny. So you did agency, and then you went into land and new home sales, right?
Yeah, I did. I mean, it wasn't Property Mark at the time, it was MFOP, but I did a brief stint training for NAEA and ALA, training individuals, and then went to work as sales manager for Barratt New Homes. So always within property.
Yeah.
I've kind of covered the full spectrum, I think.
So you did that. What? And then you made the leap to Spectre. So what? Oh, there was pause and breath there.
Yeah.
Something happened in between. And maybe this is going to answer the question. So what made that leap? Because like 8 years ago, like now, there's more and more agents doing this stuff, and it's becoming a slightly more, not common, but a slightly more logical career path.
Yeah.
8 years ago, not so much.
Yeah.
And definitely to go from what was a pretty established career and then to take a chance with what was then a startup.
Yeah.
How did that even come about? Like, did you?
So I suppose it is a bit of a funny story, but I mean, Barratt, I loved my time at Barratt. They're very, for anybody that's worked in new build homes, they're very traditional. All their processes, they're archaic in terms of how they do things.
Yeah.
But the mass kind of scale that they do things on, and the money that they make and how they do it, is incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
And actually, it was a really kind of nice business to be part of. It's quite an antisocial operation because obviously you work every weekend. And you're off on a Tuesday, Wednesday. Nobody's off on a Tuesday, Wednesday to do anything with you. So,
I mean, more so now, but 10 years ago, no.
Yeah, it was. It's a hard one to do for a long time.
Yeah.
And there's quite a high turnover there because of that, really.
Yeah, it's Yeah, I think weekends is brutal, and if you're having to do both days most weekends, like you said, that really impacts your social life.
And it doesn't matter how high up you are. If you sit on the commercial side of the business and not the construction side,
weekends is when you sell property.
Because you can't have half your sales team out there and asking questions, and the senior team not available either. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So there was an element of that, and I hadn't applied for a job. It was quite funny because a friend of mine had gone for an interview with Heather. I don't know whether he'd met Heather and Tom or just Heather. But he'd come back from his lunch and I was like, where have you been? He's like, oh, I've just been for an interview. And he was telling me about it. He says, I don't think I've got the job. But anyway, he was telling me about Spectre, essentially. And I said, well, you're not an ex-agent. He hadn't quite kind of grasped it. But from my perspective, I'd driven around.
I get it.
Writing down house numbers on a flip. There'd be two of us. Yes, there'd be somebody driving.
Checking the online ads. Which one is that?
So I completely got it the minute he started describing it. And he said, and they've built this thing that basically tells you the house number. And I'm like, so you don't have to look. I was like, that's incredible.
That's amazing.
Before I'd even done anything, I was like, that is going to be incredible.
Yeah. And that's when you know it's good, right? When you've got that experience and you're like, if someone had walked in and sold me this when I was branch manager, I'd be like, where the fuck do I sign?
I'll pay whatever. It doesn't matter. It's fine.
Yeah.
And he hadn't quite grasped it, because I think unless you would do the job, unless you do the job and you've done the job, I just don't think you can grasp something like that. And I know it's minor,
it just sounds
but just
nice.
that prospect.
It sounds nice, but you don't really understand what the alternative is.
No. Fundamentally, I mean, it's very nerdy, but obviously it's what we do. Second-hand instructions are the most valuable instructions to agents in terms of...
Is it roughly half?
60%.
God, there's more than half.
Yeah,
wow.
So typically... And
I mean, I always thought it was around half, and I always thought that was high, but 60%, that's phenomenal.
They're easier to sell, obviously, when you've got a vendor that's more motivated.
Well, and they've kind of learned from their mistakes, right? They've picked the wrong agent or gone to market at the wrong price, or... whatever the combination of those things is. So they're a little bit more savvy. They don't tend to be... I mean, it's something, we've coined at Base. We for at least a decade now, we refer to ourselves as a landlord's first choice second agent.
Okay.
So we don't... Because we're a small agency, we often won't get our foot in the door the first time, because we're not in every glossy magazine. We don't do tons of advertising and flyers and everything else. We've never done boards. I think we did boards for about a year.
Right.
But so we often don't get in on that first hook. But usually when something goes wrong, whether it's a difficult tenant or the agent's ballsed up or whatever, we then find that how a landlord looks for an agent, and again, I'm sure your data probably behind sales will show us similar, but obviously different motivations. But how landlords look for an agent when they've been burnt, well, like I said, whether it's the agent that's burnt them or the tenant, changes dramatically, and then it goes from who's got the highest price listing in my building, or who's got the most stock in my building, or who's got the lowest fee, to who's got really good reputation, who really knows their stuff, who's gonna
100%.
be on top of compliance, or maybe they've got stung by a property licensing fee, or whatever. And then we find that, like I said, that methodology changes, and then also those conversations are easier. They come to you because you're an expert, and then it's like, cool, this is everything we do, this is our fee. And the nice thing is 90% of the time there is no like, ooh, anything you can do on that, because it's like, no, they've learnt that lesson. Okay. They've gone for the 5% letting fee, or the 8% managed fee, or in sales they've done the 0.5%, 0.75%, 1%.
They're more realistic on their listing price. And we see this, obviously, we've got with respect to sales and also respect to lettings, though, we've got both, so we cover both, and you end up seeing the fee difference, the listing difference, but also just purely from a commercial perspective, you coming in and being the agent that delivers when another agent hasn't, from a reputational perspective, is priceless.
I think I still find it astonishing how different agent results can be. And I think for the consumer, and unfortunately, and I think this is the bane of every agent's life, and I think this is true whether it's sales or lettings, the consumer still fundamentally thinks all a sales or letting agent does is stick a property on Rightmove or Zoopla or on the market,
of course they do.
and that's kind of like 95% of the work done. I think there was a really interesting example of highlighting exactly what the difference of an average agent and an exemplary agent can be. So last year, my sister tried to sell a house in North London, as is often the case, and I'm sure there's a lot of agents that will be able to identify this. Of course, being a family member, she listened to every single word and every single piece of advice that I gave her on...
Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely followed the short list of my agents, absolutely listened to me about moderate price, decent fee. That's how you find the right agent. Listen to it all, obviously, as all family and friends do when they know or are married to or have a whatever sibling or child that is an estate agent. So went through 3 agencies. First 2 agencies who both had a good crack at the whip. I'm pretty sure they both had like a good 2 months at it. I think each agent managed roughly 5 viewings.
Right.
And I'd obviously been saying to her for a while, there was one local agent that I had said, look, this one seems to have the best data. But then by the time she'd been through 2, I was like, look, you need something different. So I went to our dear friend Vicky.
Yeah, I was going to say, when's Vicky going to come in?
And I was like, my sister was like, but, went to their website, she was like, love it, but they're Stoke Newington. I was like, trust me, good agency is good agency. I was like, if these guys can't sell your house, no one can sell your house right now. Because it was last year, and I think early this year, North London, kind of back end of Muswell Hill, it's a tough market at the moment. A lot of London is tough, as we know at the moment. And so my sister listened and trusted, and we got Vicky and her incredible team on the job. I think in the first week they did 35 viewings.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at the difference.
Yeah, it was something like that. They did like
that's what a street agent does, Kristjan.
two group viewings, but again, the marketing, drone shots, the walk around tours that they do, the presenter-led walk around tours that they do with their team, and
being on street.
And being on
street.
But it was just next level shit, and it was really nice for my sister to be like, oh, and I was like, yeah, so that advice I gave you like 4 months ago, this is what that looks like in real practice. But I think that in itself is a really interesting story, because not only is the consumer woefully ill-equipped to understand how to pick a good agent, but even when they're being given the right advice from a trusted source, supposedly, it's still like,
well, whatever.
Yeah, but these guys offered me a really good rate, and like they promised me they've got people waiting on the books. I was just like,
it's always the way.
But no, I think and it was amazing. In the end, and Vicky's team got, I think it was either 2 or 3 offers, whereas the other agents didn't get a single one.
Yeah.
And in the end, my sister ended up not selling because we didn't get it to where she really kind of needed it to be. And again, I had a lot of respect for Vicky and her team, because that's one of the reasons I stopped doing sales. Like for me, like once you sign on the line, like if I get you at or above asking, I've done my bit.
Yeah, you've done it, yeah.
Very much. I find that bit really hard. So I remember my sister calling me and me being like, cool. Cool, Vicky. She was like, it's fine. That's the nature of the beast.
I mean,
look,
Vicky will be used to it. And
look,
it's the speed of transaction, isn't it?
The results speak for themselves. Absolutely phenomenal. My sister was completely blown away. And she's like, wow. And I'm like, do you get it now? I'm like, although my sister did also then do the faux pas off the back of that. She was like, right, I'm gonna let the property out. And she called me a few days later and she was like, just need to run something by you. And I was like, yeah. She's like, so I've spoken to this letting agent. And I'm like, yeah, because it wasn't me. And she was like, so they've said all the right things and they're willing to do like let and manage it for 8%. And I was like, right. She's like, just sounds like a bit of a rip-off to me. And I was like, so one other thing to add is my sister worked with us here for a year.
No
I employed her. So I was like, So that was an interesting conversation because I was like, so thanks, sis. Good to know.
Yeah.
But I was like, if you think that's a rip-off, you might want to cast your mind back a few years to the fact that we charge double that amount for us to do it. Also,
there's no way. How are you even
you're
operating
talking
at it?
to a letting agent on the
who you haven't spoken to,
who might have an invested interest in. I mean, I do find, and I think this is true in business because you see this a lot across all sectors. There's nothing exclusive to property or estate agency, but I find the psychology about friends and family with business fascinating, because the vast majority of people I talk to, yes, the family are very supportive. Like quite a lot of people will be loaned a bit of money by family and friends to kind of get things off the ground, and people be like, "Oh, son, we're so proud of you," or whatever. But actually backing someone and being like, "Oh, my mate's doing this, or my brother's doing this, or my daughter's doing that." And this whole thing of like, oh yeah, dude, I'm going to be renting my flat out, but you can do me a deal on that, right? And it's like, hold on, so you're happy to go and pay like a complete stranger down the road full whack, but not me, because I'm your brother, you want it for half price. I need to undercut someone you don't know to win your business, even though I'm fucking good at what I do. I find,
and it's the classic dynamic, isn't it?
It's mental, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it weird? I don't really know where I'm going with this, because it's one of these things that I find myself coming back to and tripping over, because I'm fascinated by the psychology of it. Because in theory, like, your friends and family should be like,
should be paying top whack, and know that you're going to look after. Know that you're going to look after them, and yet, it doesn't happen, does it?
No. So it's weird and wonderful. So let's get back on track. So we were talking about the interview. So you heard about the interview, went in.
I didn't go for it. So this was me talking to my friend who'd been for the interview, and I just said, "Give me a number."
You're a salesperson, right? So
that was literally what had happened. Was so he gave me Head's mobile number, and I rang her and I just said, "Hi,
you don't know me.
You don't know me." That was literally what I said. You don't know me. My friend Paul's just been for an interview with you. I don't think he's got the job. I'm going to be right for it. And that was literally the conversation.
But there's nothing wrong with confidence, right?
And me and Heather we literally went for a coffee. Obviously now we have a full talent team and recruitment process, and
don't quite have that when there's like two founders and like three staff.
And a chat. I know there was 5 of us.
Including Tom and Heather.
The business at the time, maybe 6 including Tom and Heather, but it was minimal at that time. And rattling around what was a huge office at the time, and
the vision.
Yeah, So yeah, I went for a coffee, and the rest is history, as they say. And Heather and I just got on, and now I'm part of the furniture.
But sometimes you meet and just click, right? It's like Carla. I met Carla when we were still building out Depository, and I think we built a working version. We were using it in base because we used it in base for nearly 2 years before we opened it up. And sometimes you just know,
Yeah.
right? I remember I met Carla after the old PropTech event that used to happen, not the agency industry one. It was what was it? It's PropTech Connect is the one now, but it was the one Gary Chinwa used to run. I'm trying to remember.
Sure.
But it was like the original UK PropTech event.
Do you know what? Yeah, I think I have been to it.
So they did it at the last couple of years. They did it at the Islington Business Design Centre.
It's on that bend, isn't it? I know the building. I have been to one a couple of years ago.
So we'd had a little just a tiny little pop-up startup stand there, and then I remembered, and then I was part of the UK PropTech Association at the time, and they were doing a little awards thing afterwards across the road at the pub, as you do. And yeah, I remember bumping into Carla, who was where she just moved to, because she'd left working with Charlie Lambdin, and then she'd gone to I forget it. Anyway, one of the quite major CRMs, and yeah, we just started talking about things, and quite refreshing to talk to someone in tech who was also very much on the letting side.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes you just know, right? You just sometimes meet people. I remember saying to Carla at the time, not ready for you yet, but in 6 to 12 months' time, I think we've got a role for you. And here we are, 5 years later, 6 years later.
Again, and,
nearly 6 years later.
Part of the furniture as well. And I think in those early days, I mean, anybody in that kind of startup environment, you're doing everything, from the marketing to the sales to the support to the CS, and everything's rolled in, isn't it? So actually, the variety that you get to do and everything that you learn, and
but I think as a leader, and I'm sure Heather and Tom love this as well, having someone slot into the role who doesn't necessarily understand the business or where it's going, but gets the problem, gets the solution.
Yeah, and it
understands the real intricacies of the job.
And that was it. And we had Hello again at the time as well. So we were focusing on, which is now anniversaries with Inspector, but we were kind of launching that element of the Spectre side. Obviously, Street wasn't a thing. It was just Spectre, our first baby at the time. And but yeah, some of the stuff that we were able to do and try, and like you say, just having that industry background and knowing the day-to-day job and being able to pick up the phone. I wasn't scared of picking up the phone. We hire people now, and
again, Heather would have loved that, because you know, again, with that sales background, that thing of, and you'd been in it long enough where, you had to generate deals. You had to, you can't just sit and wait for the phone to ring.
No, absolutely. And being able to pick up the phone and have a conversation without being behind an email, which is so often how things are done now.
But also without that boring sales patter.
Yeah.
Being able to have that repartee of come on, we're agents. And
they can
we get
tell.
it. I've been there. I've been that person. As you said earlier, the moment you heard about it, you instantly remembered how horrendous that job was doing it, and boring. Surely there's got to be a better way to do this. Those years and years.
When you're in it, you don't even imagine that could be automated, and yet here we are. And Spectre's obviously evolved hugely. In that time, it's email marketing and a whole kind of marketing suite now in comparison to
you've got the website
direct
side
mail.
of it now as well, because you launched that last year.
Yep. So we've got Spectre Sales, Spectre Lettings, the email marketing, social media,
The websites,
the
and obviously
website
Central
stuff.
CRM.
Yeah, and property reports as well. So, yeah.
You guys need to stop being so fucking lazy and really pull your finger out and do some proper shit. So, look, Heather and Tom, I wanted to touch on them for a bit because they are, I mean, obviously Heather very much takes the kind of public lead, I would say. Obviously, might be different scenario within the four walls, but I think for most people observing the business, Heather is the figurehead. Typically, she's the one who stands out on stage, and for good reason, because what a human being.
Yeah, I mean those two. Incredible human beings, and I love them both to bits. They're phenomenal, and I wind Heather up. It's a standing joke that she thinks I think Tom is more intelligent than her, and it drives her mad. But I don't. Look, they both do their own thing for that business that is insane, and neither of them could operate without the other. But they're both, just so good at what they do in their own space. So Tom very much.
Tom's more the technical lead,
yeah,
right?
So he looks after the engineering side. I mean, he built Spectre pretty much the first draft of Spectre was built in his bedroom. And he self-taught code.
I've been a bit bored.
But that's very typical Tom. He is incredible at doing stuff like that. But he
tends to be how those things work, though, right? So it's a brain itch that needs to be scratched.
Yeah. So he looks after the engineering side. We've got the largest team of engineers now in the UK PropTech space by a country mile. So he looks after that and the build and roadmap and where that's going strategically. And then Heather will look after the commercial kind of side typically.
And very much kind of culture obviously I see Heather take a lead on culture because, again, she's the person at industry events who steps up on stage and talks about it. Within the four walls, does that feel like it very much comes from both of them?
Oh, it's a cohesive team. Like you could, the pair of them will work together to operate.
But like you said,
culture.
Tom kind of takes the technical lead. Does it feel like Heather feels a bit more like the kind of business strategy and kind of?
No, anything collective strategy will be done together by both of them. There's not. You can't kind of separate the two of them in that respect. Right. Literally, the day-to-day, in terms of teams, Tom will sit on that side, Heather will sit on that side. But anything
so it just depends where it's coming from.
And we've got a large SLT now as well that will sit between them and the rest of the business. Senior leadership team.
There we go.
Yeah. So it's quite a large operation, but typically.
I mean, quite a large. How many what's the head count now? So you started, there was 5 or 6?
And now, I think we're pushing 200.
Wow. In 8 years. I mean, it's
phenomenal.
That's insane.
Yeah, the scaling has been brilliant. And like you say, the culture that has grown with it. And that does come from both Tom and Heather. And then as an SLT, it'll be infiltrated within the rest of the business as well. The idea is that, I mean, there's several kind of operational. It's values, but it's how do we operate? And our operating principles are incredibly important, and we kind of instill those throughout. Well, actually, we start right at the very beginning. Like we would not be the success that we are without the people in the business. And I know everybody says that, and I know that sounds really corny and cliche, but fundamentally we wouldn't be. And it starts
But again, it's about giving those people the right framework and support system to excel in their roles, right? Because it goes hand in hand. It doesn't. You can hire the best people in the world, but if you haven't got the right structure within the business for those people to excel at what they do?
It has to start with a really incredible recruitment kind of process, and we have a really robust. We have an internal talent team that makes sure that that recruitment process and structure is followed. And
where do you feel like that came from? Because I think particularly, I think the street's been quite unique in that, like, we hear a lot in the industry. We hear a lot about the leadership on the agency side of things. And like I said, Heather's been great. Seen her stand up and talk at lots of events and give amazing talks about the culture in the business. But they're street's quite unique in that respect. You don't get a lot of suppliers at industry events get up on stage and talk about the culture in their business. They will often talk about, how they support the culture in agency. But I think one thing I've really loved watching you guys grow is you guys, it's felt to me like you guys feel like, for want of a better phrase, like a proper tech company. In terms of, you see how big goal, ambitious tech companies are built right around culture, but also, they've got that culture, they've got an objective, but also the brand. I mean, you guys, the marketing from even early doors has been really sharp. I mean, you guys have very much latched onto that Apple kind of aesthetic, but why the fuck not? Because it comes across beautifully. But it felt like, to me, you guys felt like one of the first tech companies where, like I said, it put you on stage in the enormous sphere that is tech.
Yeah.
And you guys would look phenomenal in pretty much any sector. Whereas I think a lot of suppliers, and again, tech companies within our industry, kind of get, I don't know, they shy away from talking too much about themselves, or maybe it's because they don't know that culture and structure is there. I don't know. But like, for me, you guys, when watching you guys on your ascendancy, it's really felt like watching a very unique and quite special business in the space doing quite.
And it is, but it comes from the fact, I think, that we are a SaaS business, so software as a service. It's a coincidence that our client base are estate agents.
Yeah.
And I think people coming into our business, and the biggest shock that they have, especially if they've got an industry background, is they come in and they think they're in a property business. And we're not. We're a tech business.
Yeah.
And our clients are estate agents, and that's very different.
Yeah.
So everything that we do internally, every process comes from a tech perspective.
Yeah.
And all our meetings, our terminology, our jargon, meeting cadence, all the approaches that we have come from that sphere.
Yeah.
So and the culture.
But I think that's quite unusual. I think a lot of suppliers in the industry, I mean, again, a bit like a lot of people fall into being an agent, as we've talked about much earlier on. I think a lot of people kind of fall into being a supplier. They identify a thing within the business, or like they see someone doing something and they're like, actually, I quite like that, like move adjacent, or whatever it is. But I think they very much are like, okay, I'm building this product for estate agents to sell to estate agents. We're a property business, like you said, we're a property business selling a product for estate agents, rather than we're a tech, like you said, is it a tech company where it just so happens that your clients are estate agents?
If you compare any of, I mean, even if we're just talking UK tech companies, one of the foundational parts of their business and is the culture. And coming back to the culture, that's where we place so much emphasis. So, like I say, it starts incredible recruitment process, operating principles, absolutely second to none in terms of making sure that everybody's kind of reliable, open, trustworthy. We default to open. Tom and Heather have always done that as a business, because ultimately, how can you expect, no matter what job somebody's doing in the business, how can they be expected to make a day-to-day decision and know why we're doing something if they don't understand the strategy, the direction,
exactly,
the numbers, the reasons?
If you don't know where the business is going, how the hell do you know
and
how
yet
to help get it
there
there?
are so many businesses out there that try and keep everything
Obscure
closed off, and the senior team are in a glass box, and there's none of that happens and that ultimately creates a culture that they want to be a part of because they can understand it, they get the direction, and it feels safe, and it feels exciting, and it feels like they can really add value, and they know where they can add value. And having that makes a big difference. Making sure that there's decent leaders in place to make sure that's carried out is really important as well. And I think leadership is often underestimated in terms of business. I think you can have an impactful kind of new starter come in and cause a problem. If you've made a bad hire, that can cause a problem quite quickly. But if you've got a poor leader, that is even worse.
One, right?
I think that's something that we really try and make sure is okay. And I, back to university, when I did psychology, I did a lot around attachment theory. And attachment theory typically is around romantic relationships, and I could talk all day around attachment theory. I find it really interesting, but it plays a real part in how people operate. So somebody's attachment kind of personality will play a part in terms of how they receive feedback, how they will participate in meetings, how they will contribute to workload, burnout, whether they will be defensive, whether they, and there's lots of things that I think are underestimated within kind of scaling a business and scaling teams, and this is the kind of challenges that we've overcome to make the culture within there as good as we can, and obviously the products speak for themselves, but the culture, I think without both of them we wouldn't be where we are today.
Nice. And look, I don't think that won't come as a surprise to most people. I think I've admired Heather and Tom for a long time. I love how they do it, and like I said, the team, you guys around them, and watching you guys grow, it's a joy to behold. It's nice to see. It's nice to see. And look, I think good qualities, good products help agents be better agents, help our industry move on as well. So it's not just nice now being in the supplier space as well. Seeing a supplier kind of really lead from the front, but also you guys, giving agents the tools to be the best they can be is awesome. So, look, we're going to need to kind of start wrapping this up. So there's a couple of things I wanted to do. So 2026, any sneak peek hints at what we can kind of expect from the Street Group this year?
I think firstly, we've got an incredibly exciting year in that we've built a lot of functionality into Spectre, as we were talking about, that hasn't kind of had the pleasure of going out to the client base as of yet. So we're going to make sure that is in the client base as much as possible. The email marketing, social media, property reports, everything in relation to that. But at the minute, because we've done that within Spectre, we've kind of not caught up in embedding that within Spectre and Street. So our focus is going to be making sure that those two products are
fully embedding and integrating them.
Fully integrated and aligned, just so that agents can, get the absolute best out of the kind of operational running of the business from the Street side, but then also obviously the marketing and business generation from the Spectre side. And we think, we needed to bolster Spectre into being able to do that and add the two together. So that's going to be our main focus. But as always, I mean, we on average do about 63 deploys a day. So we're not going to sit on our hands.
No, busy, as you should be. And then probably just last thing to round things up, because we are both supporters of an event coming up in March, which is the we are not a conference. The Women in Estate Agency, not a conference. So look, I've talked several times about this event because it has become, alongside the Esters for quite obvious reasons, but it has become one of my favourite events of the year because, again, much like we've been talking about how you guys kind of stepped up and kind of raised the game a little bit in terms of culture and strategy and branding and everything else. We are landed, it'll be 4 years. Is it 4 years this March? I think this will be the fourth. I think this is the fourth.
3. Yeah, it is fourth. Yeah, that's it. I think back to all the different of venues, but yeah. So yeah, I think this will be the fourth one, and like I said, again, a bit like you guys kind of shook things up. It felt like that landed not only at a really important time for women in estate agency, and I think it was really important and great to see a real spotlight put on that, but in a very open way. But also to kind of reimagine the whole, what is a conference or not a conference. We've just come out of peak conference season, as we all do. I think we all clawed over. What was it? Was Ran the last one? Ran was the last one. And yeah, I think, we all get to Christmas. And for those of us who like a party or two, or tend to sponsor pretty much every freaking event. It's a busy time of year, and look, we all talk. We're not going to delve into the pros and cons of every conference on the industry circuit. But what is lovely about WEA is it is a totally different event, not just in terms of obviously the topic, but like you guys said, you're a tech company that just happens to sell to property people, and I've said before, the WEA event is a conference, or it's an event that just happens to be, again, for estate agents. It feels like as an event, anyone could go to the WEA event, regardless of industry, and come out and be empowered with knowledge, whether you're male or female in that room. Yeah, completely.
And so yeah, just tell me a little bit. What do you guys think about WEA? I mean, we've both been sponsors. Obviously, you guys have been a little bit more front and center over the years, but we've both been backing the event, and with it, only a couple of months away. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I think it is an incredible event. It's an absolute joy to go to. It's one that you really look forward to. Normally, when I look forward to going to an event, and I do all of them, but it's more of the party environment and the drinks afterwards, and seeing where is actually the difference. I think with
there's an amazing after party sponsor this year. Just they're so awesome. I've no idea who they are. Watch the press soon, but I've heard they're incredible.
They're incredible. So I think you get double whammy. You get double whammy. But typically, like genuinely, with the WEA events, you think about what you're going to see, what speakers are going to be on, and just the whole vibe. I mean, we sponsored WEA right from, like you say, the very beginning, and it was in this small kind of back room, and I remember everybody worried at the time that the men, I think, we can't go to that because it's obviously.
Well, I remember when it got launched, and I straight away fired off an email. I was like, I'm allowed to come. And I didn't know whether I was going to get that email back of like, it's women in the estate agency. Go away, you inventor.
I know. There was a lot, obviously, of women. That first year, I think a lot of people thought that the men aren't allowed, to the point where obviously there's always a queue outside the women's toilets, isn't there? And it got to the point where there were so few men at it that they just thought, forget it, we'll use the men's as well. And that it was just a funny observation where you think, right, there are a huge amount of women now in this venue.
Because I think that first year, I think there was like 20 guys, not even that, 15, 20 guys in the room. Which I think, look, for the first one,
to be expected, absolutely.
And to be right, I think had it been like 50-50 or close to that, it would have been a bit weird. I think first event. I think it was right that
it was right, and the venue was lovely, and it was intimate, and they filled it. They, you know, in their first kind of foray out into it, they sold out, and it was just really nice and refreshing, you know, in terms of content. And that first year, they had a lot of the speakers were within industry and shared experiences. It was really personal.
It wasn't that like, oh, here's how you increase your fee.
No,
or here's how you land an extra instruction. It was, again, it's coming back to that thing. It was culture, it was identity, it was empathy, it was learning, you know. I mean, we've always been a pretty forward-leaning company. You know, starting a business with Anne, there was never a moment in time when any of my questions about whether we start a business together had anything to do with whether she had whether she was male or female. So, and you know, there have been times where I've been the only man in the company.
Mm-hmm.
There was one point, I think, where we had like 6 or 7 of us and I was the only bloke. And so for me, it was fascinating. But even despite that, you know, that very first one, there was so much I learned. And not only as a boss, as a manager, as a founder, whatever, but also as a husband, as a father to a daughter as well. Like the things that I've come to understand, some enlightening and empowering and fascinating, some
they wouldn't have been on your radar.
Horrendous and terrifying. And I'm not necessarily even talking about the individual, some of the individual stories that we've heard, which are harrowing but also amazing kind of stories of survival, really. But I think also how commonplace these incidents are. Maybe not on the biggest of scales, but you know, there was quite a bit of talk that the guys were chatting about it on the Cluffle podcast the other day, and Toby did the column about it. You know, the conference, again, we're talking about conferences and drinking and the drinking culture, you know, and unfortunately, you know, we still hear the same old murmurs, the same old, well, they're not murmurs, the pretty shocking stories that still emerge secretly, quietly, behind closed doors after each of these events, which are still all too common. But yeah, no, it's sorry, slightly went off on a tangent there, but it is a very empowering and enlifting and like I said, I have learned so much going to those. Like I said, not just business, home, family, you know, understanding my mum, my sister, my wife, my daughter better, as well as my business partner and the team we run around it. I think it's it's one of those ones, like if you know, it is a women's conference and it should absolutely be predominantly women at the event. I still firmly believe that, but it is absolutely essential that guys are in that room
100%.
and that guys educate themselves just to be a little bit better. You're not going to walk out that conference and suddenly go from being a mediocre manager of the opposite sex to suddenly being the greatest ally and champion. But if you come out, you will come out of there having a better grasping and understanding of just some of the challenges that the opposite sex face.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's so many women out there that walk at night with their keys between their knuckles, and you think that men don't necessarily realise that.
I remember watching this video about this woman saying, like, she was even thinking when she was going running, it was even like, oh, I do my hair so people can't grab my hair. And I'm like, how is that a thing? Like, as guys, it's like, you know, anyway, we're too late in the talk to go down this thing. And it's, and And also, I don't want guys who haven't been to the event to think that's all it's
And
about.
that was
It's
the point I
not
wanted to
stories
make
of.
as well. Yeah, it's not all. It's
There
not
are
all like
so
that
many inspiring stories in there. There are incredible just things that get you thinking about the language that you use, how you run your teams, your empathy, like, you know, and so much more. But yeah, look, if you are a guy watching this and you haven't been to the Women in Estate Agency conference, and you're kind of thinking, what is the 1 or 2 events this year I would do? I would categorically say it's gotta be
definitely up there.
It's gotta be right up near that very top of your list, because you will learn stuff. You will come out of that having your eyes open to a certain degree, and you will go, oh shit, I do that, or like, or you know, you actually might come out and be like, actually, I feel pretty good. I went in there worried that I'm a pretty lousy manager in that respect, but actually I'm doing an all right job. It's not about it's not just about what we're doing wrong. It's about
No, I think the measure of it is ultimately you don't get anybody who goes to WEA and doesn't go to the following year.
Yeah.
End of. Like that. That's enough to kind of suggest everything that you take away from it and how good it is.
So off the top of my head, I can't remember what date it is in March. I think it's I'm going to say around the 10th, 5th, something like that. 5th.
I should know because we normally go
fifth.
after straight away. I'm going to say 5th.
But honestly, if you haven't been, go. If you're a leader, if you're a manager, maybe even do a pool lot. If you're a bigger company, buy a bunch of tickets, get a couple of senior leaders to go, but take some of the team as well. We took our whole team last year, and I think we'll probably do the same again this year. And everyone came away with different things from the event, but absolutely loving it. And it is nothing like any of the other ones. Like I say, you're not going to sit there and hear about instruction rates or fees or, you know, all the stuff that and nothing wrong with that stuff, but there are lots of sources of information where you can go and learn that, from Chris Watkin to EA Masters to the Guild to whatever. There's lots of content out there to teach you that, and this is something really different. But so yeah, if you haven't been before, go to the WEA website, find your tickets, book your tickets, have a great day, see you there. Maybe for an after party. Dan, I think we've pretty much run out of time, but this has been an absolute joy, as it always is hanging out with you.
It's been great fun. Thank you for having me.
But thank you for braving the travel down to see us southern monkeys down here.
Absolute pleasure, and it's as cold here today as it is normally up north, so I feel quite at home with it. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm still rocking my t-shirt and my jacket though. It's what we Vikings do. Thanks for coming down. Absolute joy, guys. Thanks for joining us. Tune in next time. Another one coming soon. Hope you enjoyed that. Bye.